Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the Eritrean invasion of Tigray, as well as the civil war taking place inside the former state of Ethiopia. And first, I'm going to start in the southeast of the conflict zone, just south of Korim, south of Alamata, within the vicinity of Kobo. And there has been some questions about the prospect of a renewed invasion by B loyalist and Amhara regional forces into the southeastern Tigray region, specifically focused on moving up the A2 highway via Kobo, and then attacking Alamata, and then proceeding up towards Mekelle. Again, this south to north advance by Abiy loyalist forces. Now, the big problem for Abiy loyalist forces, yes, the Tigrayan Defense Forces have withdrawn from certain parts of the northeastern Amhara region. They have withdrawn from Kobo, but they have not withdrawn, meaning the Tigrayan Defense Forces have not withdrawn from areas to the east in the Zobel mountain range and to the west of Kobo as well. So the big issue for Abiy loyalist forces, if they were to attempt to make a drive north along the A2 highway towards Wajah, and then eventually, ultimately, their first target would be Alamata, located up here. The problem is as they were to advance north, these Tigrayan forces to the west and to the east in the Zobel mountain range would then fall upon the logistical network of the Abiy loyalist forces as they tried to push north. The Abiy loyalist forces are first going to have to move west and east, and specifically clear out the Zobel mountain range and the hill country directly to the west of the A2 highway, which, for all intents and purposes, the Tigrayan Defense Forces still control some strategic high areas in the area of operations in the southeast, and that right now is really what is preventing the Abiy loyalist forces from moving moving north. They could move north. They would probably penetrate and make their way into Wajah and then north towards Alamata, but they would eventually their rear area would come under the attack of Tigrayan Defense Forces. They would have to utilize immense amounts of forces to clear out TDF areas to the west of A2 and to the east of the A2, the Zobel mountain range. So that is what right now is kind of preventing this Abiy loyalist force movement into the southeastern Tigray region. So why did the Tigrayan Defense Forces withdraw from Kobo Robot, and its strong points near Weldia? Well, it needed to deploy forces to counter the Eritrean Abiy loyalist invasion that is taking place in the north. It can hold with a holding force in the south. It also did incredibly massive amounts of damage to multiple Abiy loyalist divisions that were originally based near Kobo. An entire corps of the ENDF, or the Abiy loyalist forces, were essentially destroyed in this Tigrayan operation, in which led to TDF forces on the outskirts of Weldia. And with the Eritrean invasion in the north, a continued operation by the Tigrayan Defense Forces south was just not conducive. It's just something that would be very difficult to fight a two-front war. And now, right now, we are seeing this massive invasion by the Eritrean military into northern Tigray. And quite frankly, right now, it's becoming very, very difficult for the Eritrean military to move a few kilometers south. It looks like right now, again, as I talked about yesterday, they are stuck somewhere within the vicinity of Adidaro. There are multiple defensive belts that the Tigrayan Defense Forces have set up in the north Unlike the prior campaigns that we have seen in which the Tigrayan Defense Forces did not contest the cities. They pulled out of cities and they went into their mountain redoubts and strongholds in the Tenbian region and other areas, mountainous terrain inside the Tigray region. This time, again, as I talked about before, the Tigrayan Defense Force is fully mobilized, 250,000 personnel. So they have the ability to now make defensive redoubts or strongholds of many of these cities in the mountains and hills and major terrain features around these cities. And just for the Eritrean military to supply itself down this highway into just north of Shire and reinforce its forces near Adidaro is incredibly challenging and very, very difficult because the unconventional forces of the Tigrayan Defense Force, again, you're looking at really kind of two paradigms here, two different methods the way the Tigrayan Defense Force is fighting. One is a unconventional force, which attacks the rear areas and supply lines of the Eritrean military, conducts long-range cross-border attacks into the Eritrean state, into the Abiy loyalists' Amhara region. And then you see the conventional side, in which we are seeing cities being fortified, towns being fortified, large terrain features being fortified. And that is, quite frankly, how the Tigrayan Defense Forces are going to win this war. It is simply going to make it too costly for the Eritrean military to make any sort of headway into the Tigray region. And that's kind of what we're continuing to see. Again, if we look east, within the vicinity of Zalambasa, again, very little movement by the Eritrean military south. They're really having issues advancing into Zalambasa and then further south along the B20, and they haven't even got to the hard stuff yet, and that's the mountainous terrain where the Tigray Defense Forces really excel at. So that's going to be very challenging if and when they do decide to press south from Zalambasa. In the west, the central area, central north, near Rama, again, same situation. Very hilly terrain, west, east, and as the Eritrean military were to move into Rama, you would obviously face street-to-street, house-to-house fighting. It would then have to continue to move south, at which time, again, these TDF units, these unconventional warfare units that are based in the mountains and foothills to the east and west of Rama, would then fall upon the supply infrastructure, the logistical abilities of the Eritrean army to sustain itself inside of the northern Tigray region. And then finally, where the heaviest fighting is taking place right now, within the vicinity of north of Shire. They're about 10 miles north of Shire, probably near Adidaro. Adidaro, I believe at this point, is still contested. There are still significant TDF forces to the east and west of Adidaro. And again, it's the same thing. It's where the TDF is able to come in, cut this main arterial route south, and the Eritrean military, the Abiy loyalist commando divisions that are supporting the Eritrean military simply can't feed itself. They then have to conduct foraging operations. They have to steal from the local populace, which then increases the kind of the hatred towards these occupational forces, like it's not already there. I mean, obviously, from what happened in the previous occupation, there is no love loss in the Tigray region for the Eritrean army or the Abiy loyalist army. So very, very tough situation for the Eritrean military or the Abiy loyalist supporting forces to make really any headway. And ultimately, I do believe their goal is to attempt an all-out invasion and install their own government in the Tigray region. But I think at this point it is going to be very unsuccessful. It is going to cause a massive loss of Eritrean life. Again, they are going to need hundreds of thousands of forces to occupy just the northern Tigray region. It's going to be incredibly tough. And then the prospects of moving back into the Timbian region, which was completely unsuccessful the last time, the likelihood of that happening successfully with a fully mobilized Tigray populace, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for the Eritrean military. And again, logistically, they've got a lot of manpower, but logistically, they're just not built to support that kind of force in northern Tigray and successfully maintain a continual occupation of northern Tigray. But we'll continue to watch this area. We're also watching something very interesting in the kind of the southwest, western Tigray, within the vicinity of Adi, RK. There may be something getting ready to happen in this sector. I'm not going to go a lot into it, but I've got some information that we could see some very interesting activity, and that would probably mean a uptick in fighting in this area. But we'll see what happens. We're going to watch this very, very closely. And if you look at some of the past counter-offensive operations by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, you just never know. They are a wily bunch, and just when you think they're sleeping, they're not. And but we'll keep an eye, and obviously once things evolve in certain areas, we'll definitely have a discussion about that and have continued information put out, content created. But again, thanks for joining us today. More to come very, very soon. And as always, have a good day.